How do you remake an entire society from the ground up? I mean, not just changing the laws, but changing its very heart, its moral fabric. Well, in this explainer, we're diving into the incredible three-part project of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. We're going to look at his sharp diagnosis of a huge societal problem, the radical legal solution he built, and his vision for the moral foundation that a new India would need to be truly free.
And this quote, this gets right to the core of the problem Ambedkar was up against. You see, the society he was trying to reform wasn't just unequal by accident. No, it was unequal by design, structured on a hierarchy that was supposedly sanctioned by the divine, written right into the most sacred texts.
So, to really get a grip on Ambedkar's massive project, we're going to follow his path. First, we'll look at the problem of inequality through his eyes. Then, we'll see how he became the architect of a new law and a new constitution to fix it. But law wasn't enough for him. So we'll dive into his search for a new moral order. And finally, we'll put all the pieces together to see his powerful, enduring vision.
All right, so first things first, the diagnosis. Before you can build something new, you have to understand exactly what's broken. For Ambedkar, the fundamental flaw in Indian society was this deeply entrenched, religiously mandated system of inequality. At the very heart of this was the ancient social structure of the four varnas. Society was literally split into these four distinct hierarchical classes. You had the Brahmins, the priests, at the very top, and then way down at the bottom, locked into a lifetime of service, were the Shudras. And here, this is where that abstract idea of graded inequality becomes just shockingly real. This wasn't just some social pecking order, it was written into law. I mean, look at this. According to the ancient laws of Manu, the punishment for the exact same crime, like defamation or adultery, was wildly different depending on your caste. Justice wasn't blind, it was specifically calibrated to your rank in society.
And these rules were absolute. The law said the Shudra had one and only one job: service. Think about that. It wasn't just a social expectation, it was seen as a sacred duty, locking entire communities into one single, subservient role from the moment they were born.
Okay, so having diagnosed this massive systemic problem, Ambedkar turned to what he saw as the most powerful tool for change there was: the law. He believed a new legal instrument could be forged, one powerful enough to smash the old order.
You see, the old legal frameworks weren't just neutral observers of all this inequality. They were its active enforcers. They were designed to stop any change to the hierarchy. For instance, ancient texts said slavery could only flow downwards through the classes. The whole system had these built-in fail-safes to make sure that the pyramid of power could never, ever be flipped upside down.
So how do you break a system that's literally designed to protect itself? Well, Ambedkar found the answer in a powerful concept from British law: legislative supremacy. It's this idea that a parliament has the absolute right to make or unmake any law it wants. For Ambedkar, this wasn't just some dusty legal theory. It was the master key he needed to unlock the chains of those ancient codes.
And that master key, that concept of supreme legislative power, led directly to his masterwork, the Indian Constitution. And this wasn't just some administrative guidebook. Oh no, it was a revolutionary script designed to completely erase those ancient codes and write a new story, one based on modern rights and equality for every single person.
And just look at this. This slide shows the radical change perfectly. On the left, you've got the old Manusmriti, saying sacrifices by women are bad and that the Shudra is born to be a servant. And on the right, Ambedkar's Constitution. Article 167 says, nope, you can't disqualify someone from the legislature because of their sex, and Article 294, it mandates reserved seats for the very communities once called servile. It's a direct, legal knockout punch to the old order.
So the Constitution wasn't just a document of nice ideas. It was a brand new machine for justice. It built in safeguards at every level: a Supreme Court to be the final word, exclusive power for Parliament to make laws for the whole nation, special officers whose job was to actively protect minorities, and the biggest rule of all, every law must be non-discriminatory.
Period.
But Ambedkar was a realist. He knew that just having laws in the books wasn't enough. For a new society to really work, its laws needed to be rooted in something deeper, a shared moral and philosophical foundation that people could actually believe in. And this led him to a really deep question. The old system, with all its injustice, claimed its authority came from the gods. So if you get rid of that, what do you replace it with? How do you keep a moral universe spinning without a divine commander pulling the strings?
Ambedkar found his answer in Buddhism. He saw that the Buddha had already created a way to separate true moral principles from all the stuff that just pretends to be religion. This was basically a blueprint for a morality based on reason and personal responsibility, not on just following divine orders.
And this is the crucial point, right here. This philosophy puts all the moral responsibility squarely on the individual. This quote is a powerful takedown of the whole idea of inherited sin or purity just because of who you were born to. Your actions define you, not your family tree. You and you alone are in charge of your own purification.
And there's the answer to that big question. For Ambedkar, the new moral order isn't held up by some divine command. It's held up by the law of karma, the idea of cause and effect, and by people actually choosing to practice morality, together. In this new vision, morality itself basically takes the place of God.
So all of this brings us to the very core of Ambedkar's lasting vision, and why this whole journey, from diagnosis to law to philosophy, is so important, even today.
See, he wasn't just a political reformer, he was a social architect. His project was a complete overhaul of society. It moved logically from a clear-eyed diagnosis of a society built on graded inequality, to the radical prescription of a new constitution, and then, finally, to the deep philosophical foundation of a new social morality needed to make the whole thing stick.
And this, right here, is the ultimate takeaway. For Ambedkar, law and morality weren't separate things. They were like the twin pillars holding up the roof of a just society. The law builds the structure of equality, sure, but it's a shared public morality that breathes life into that structure and makes it real. And that leaves us with a final, provocative thought that Ambedkar's entire life's work forces us to ask ourselves. Can a society really be just if it has great laws but no moral consensus to support them? Or a beautiful moral vision with no force of law to protect it? What really is the true foundation of a just and equal society?